So winning new business for agencies has always been important, but it feels like it's never been more important than right now. So you are in the right place because today I'll be taking you through the very latest agency new business benchmarks and giving you tips that will help improve your sales performance. This has been brought to you by the Wow Company, an accountancy practice that specializes in working with agencies, typically above £1 million worth of fee income. And what we do, our mission is to help you build more beautiful businesses. And that purpose has led us to do a whole number of things beyond just accountancy, one of which was setting up Bench Press in 2012. What started off as a tiny survey has grown to be the largest survey of independent agency owners here in the UK. And in fact, it's so much more than that. It's grown to be a program of activity, which started in March with our release of the State of the Agency Nation report. It continues today with this webinar and the report that will be emailed to you later today. And it continues into the summit in July. We'll be publishing benchmarks to help you build a more valuable agency. And again, there'll be another webinar in July that you can join in. In between all of those, we run the brilliant Agency Bite sessions. So these are interactive sessions run by my colleague, Rory Spence. Cameras and microphones are on. And they're a wonderful opportunity for us to bring agency owners together to share ideas and experiences to tackle some of the big challenges that we're all facing right now. But it doesn't stop there. If you're a WOW client, you can get some exclusive content. We've already sent you a checklist to boost your performance off the back of the first report, and you'll be getting a similar checklist off the back of this report. Keep an eye on your email from your WOW accountant. I just want to say a massive thank you to our official Bench Press partner, Crystal Hosting. Crystal is a wonderful company, the largest independent web hosting company here in the UK that offers super fast hosting with 100% renewable energy. And if you're looking to do your bit for the environment, whilst also improving the performance of your hosting, I recommend you check Crystal out for all Bench Press participants. And as a thank you for partnering with us, they're offering 6 months of free hosting on their monthly plans. If you go to wowco.uk/crystal, all the information is there. So some context for today. The reason why this is particularly important right now is because 2023 was a brutal year for agencies. When you look at all of the metrics, particularly around growth and profitability, it is clear that it was incredibly challenging. And those challenges are continuing today. 40% say that winning new business is their #1 challenge right now. And so the plan for today is really simple. I'm going to take you through the 3 big new business challenges that are facing agencies right now. And most importantly, I'm going to show you how to solve them. So let's get cracking. First of all, the 3 biggest new business challenges. We asked in our survey, what is impacting you right now? At number 3, agencies are saying there are simply not enough leads. We don't have enough opportunities to fill our pipeline, and that is putting pressure on us. The ones in our pipeline, when we do get opportunities, they're simply not big enough. The client budgets are too small, the second biggest challenge. And the #1 challenge, new business challenge facing agencies right now, is that decisions keep getting delayed. I heard so many horror stories last year of decisions being delayed and delayed and delayed. And even when you did get a purchase order, I had clients coming to us and saying, look, I've got this purchase order, but I can just feel it's going to get stalled. And it does. It doesn't kick off to the next month or the next month. And suddenly you've got a PO, but you can't invoice on it because you haven't had that first meeting. It's always going to be next month and next month. And this has been played out across the agency world. And if you found yourself in that situation, you are not alone. So how do we solve those 3 challenges? Let's start with number 3, not enough leads. Well, the first question I have for you is this. How many new business leads do you actually need? And to answer this question, you need 3 pieces of information. The first piece of information you need is the revenue required from new business. Now, to work this out, hopefully you'll be starting from the bottom up. We talk about this a lot at WOW, given we're an accounting firm, but we start with, well, what is the amount of money that you want to make? Probably what is the amount of money you want to earn? Then what's the profit you need to make? Looking at your cost, that will give you a revenue. And when you look at that revenue, how much can you allocate from retained work and how much will come from existing client spend. That gives you a figure that you will need to generate from new business. That's the first piece of information you need. The second piece of information is your average deal value. And astonishingly, only 45% of agencies actually know their average deal value. I find that mind-blowing. In a world where this data is so freely available, or should be freely available, the fact that over half of agencies are flying blind is quite concerning. So if you don't know your average deal value, please go and work it out. You'll need it. The third piece of information is the conversion rates at every stage of your pipeline, not just the final one, not just the proposal to deal conversion rate, but at every stage of your pipeline. And really interestingly, very few agencies know this. Only 16% of agencies are tracking conversion rates at every stage of their sales pipeline. So what does that actually look like? Well, you could have any number of different stages in your pipeline, but a typical one might look like, well, we get a lead and that results hopefully in a sales conversation, which results hopefully in a proposal, which hopefully results in a deal. So that is a very typical 4-stage process of a pipeline. You may have more, you may have fewer stages in your pipeline, but what are the stages for you? And then what you can do is work out the conversion rate at every stage. So from leads to conversation, in this case, I put down a notional 20%. So 1 in 5 of the leads we get in results in a sales conversation. And then 1 in 3 of those sales conversations result in a proposal. And then say 50%, 1 in 2 actually results in a deal. And then what you can do, well, the first question is, once you've worked out those figures, is how can you increase each conversion rate? So I had a really interesting conversation with an agency a few weeks ago. There's actually gone through this process, actually sat down and thought very, very carefully, okay, this isn't about volume, actually, this is about quality. And whilst it is about volume, you see, I'll come to it later, it's about the quality at the top end. Because if you can have good quality, qualified leads coming in at the top of the funnel, then you're much more likely for them to want to have sales conversations. So how do you bring in better quality leads, and how do you nurture them so that they want to have a conversation with you? What is it that you are doing specifically that adds value to them, that brings them down on a journey with you, that shows how you can add value? And then there are very, very clear call to actions that initiates a sales conversation with you. Are you thinking meticulously about all of those stages of the journey? And then in that sales conversation, how do you demonstrate very, very clearly that you can add value to their organization so that they want to progress things to have a proposal? And then once you've issued a proposal, often it won't be a quick yes. There'll be a gap between them, you issuing that proposal and then making the final decision. And it's critical. That's a critical phase. What happens in that gap? What are you doing to increase your chances of success? Because more often than not, they will be getting other quotes. How do you ensure that you continue to stand out, you continue to demonstrate your value so that it's an absolute no-brainer for them to choose you? That is what this looks like when you're really focused on every stage of your pipeline. And once you've worked out those percentages and worked out how you can increase them based on the amount of new business revenue you need, you can then work, and your average deal value, you can then work out, well, look, how many deals do I need? I might need 4 per month or per quarter based on those bits of information. Well, if I need 4 deals to happen in a particular month at a 50% conversion rate, I need 8 proposals to be issued. And if I need 8 proposals and I've got a 1 in 3 conversion rate to conversation, I need to have 24 sales conversations, pretty much 1 a day. And if I need to have pretty much 1 a day sales conversation, well, I need to generate 120 leads per month. And if you sat there thinking, crikey, that sounds a lot, how on earth am I going to generate 120 leads per month? I want you to think about this. What would happen if you doubled your average deal value? What would happen if you doubled your average deal value? Well, in simple terms, you would halve the number of leads that you required. So have a think about, again, this isn't so much about volume and quantity. It's about the quality and the value of what you're bringing in. So have a think about those numbers, what they mean for you. But whatever number you have at the top here, and in this case, it's 120, you can then start to think about where those leads will come from. And you can do some further analysis and look at all of the channels, all of the ways that you generate opportunities. I've listed a few here. You might have different ones. You might have a lot more. You might have less. But whatever is working for you, you can start to budget. Okay, where will my leads come from? And then at the bottom, you can see whether you're ahead or behind relating to your target. So that gives you a sense of whether or not you are doing enough to get the deals that you need. And that's the key. Putting all this on a spreadsheet is only part of the game. What you then need to do is make sure you're doing the activity that drives the referrals, the networking events, enough content, whatever you do on social. You need to have the activity that backs up what you've put on your spreadsheet. And this is literally a spreadsheet. If you go to that we've created and we give away for free, some of you are already using this, and we add to it all the time. But if you go to wowco.uk/lead-calculator, and again, the link's popping in the chat, then what you can do is you can download a copy of that. So the data that you put in there will never be shared with anyone. We never see it. So copy, you can put who you want in there. You can do this as many times as you want. There's instructions on how to use it, but you can run that exercise I've just done for yourself and ensure that you're doing the scientific bit, you're doing the thinking behind the leads, but the thinking's only part of it, right? That's the planning. That's really important. It's then about the action. So what actions are you going to take? What tactics are you going to use? Well, a good place to start is, well, what's working? Let's do the stuff that works, right? That would be an obvious place to start. Well, we asked, well, what are the top 3 ways of generating qualified leads in our survey? And this is what you told us. Here, I have listed everything that got a vote of 10% or more. And everything's in the report, by the way. And if I flash through stuff really quickly here that you don't quite get a chance to jot down, don't worry. The recording will be sent to you afterwards. You can digest all of this in the report. There's so much more detail in there. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So you can see here that speaking at other people's events, written content marketing, winning awards, email marketing, even applying for tenders, online networking, SEO, organizing your own events, prospecting, all of those things you'd expect to see in there. But what's really interesting is when you look at the top 5, have a look at the top 5 or 6, because we've got LinkedIn at 25%, referrals from other sources at 40%, in-person networking at 40%, and then referrals from existing clients. Now, if you look at those top 5, the one thing they all have in common is it's all about relationships. All about relationships. And we kind of know this intuitively. This won't be news to you, but seeing it in black and white is really powerful. The other thing that is really powerful, look at this. 3 out of those top 6, we've got referrals from existing clients, referrals from other sources, referrals from agencies and freelancers, referrals. Now, kind of knew this was coming up, and you probably did too, which is why we asked this next question, which was, have you implemented a client referral strategy? Because you could just wait and hope for the referrals to come, and some of us do, and that's fine. That will get you so many. But given this is the #1 way that agencies win new business, what would happen if you were actually proactive about it? Well, we asked the question, how many actually are? Well, only 11% have fully implemented a client referral strategy. 15% have partly implemented it with the senior team. 25% have tried it, but it lost momentum. But look at this, a whopping 49% have not done this yet. Half of agencies with a fantastic opportunity to move from being reactive to being proactive with this and actually implementing a client referral strategy. And this is simpler than you think. We've actually created a really neat 2-minute video that we link to from the report that will show you exactly how to do this, how to get started on this, and tips from what we've seen work elsewhere. So I recommend you check out that link. And in fact, check out all of the links in the report. There's so many points in the report where we have loads to say, loads of extra value to add, and we point you off to a blog or another article or a video because we just can't cram it all in there. So do check out those links. Now, whatever tactics you choose, it's really important that you have a clear plan. We asked the question in the report, how far out do you plan your marketing activity? And what we noticed is the agencies that plan further ahead have much better conversion rates and make more profit because, quite simply, the money that they're spending, they make better use of. So make sure you've got a clear plan with this. You'll notice that all of the things I'm talking about today requires you to stop and think and put a plan in place and do more of the stuff that works and less of the stuff that doesn't. That is how you will get the edge over what is a challenging market at the moment. Now, the other thing that will give you the edge is to measure your return on investment, because quite simply, the more you measure, the better you will perform. We see this consistently time and time again over every single one of the years that we've been running bench press since 2012. We've seen this. The more you measure, the better you perform. So I was curious, what marketing and sales metrics are agencies measuring? Well, a lot of them. So if you look at the marketing metrics agencies are measuring, everything from where a contact first heard about you or what prompted them to get in touch. A lot of people looking at detailed website analytics, same with social and email, event attendees, etc., content downloads. But the stat that interested me, well, two stats that interested me. First of all, the 17% that aren't measuring any of these. What are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? This is not the time to be flippant with this. This is the time to be meticulous. So if you're not measuring any of these, I suggest you start. But the thing that I found really interesting was this stat here. Only 18% of agencies are measuring cost per lead by campaign. So at a time when every penny counts with our marketing, we are not counting the pennies when it comes to which of our marketing strategies are being the most effective. And that is criminal. We all need to do better here, because this is our future. This is our investment in our future. And if we're not trying to figure out what's working and what's not, and what the return on that investment is, which of our campaigns are working, because it's not just which is generating the opportunities, it's how much it's costing us to generate those opportunities. We're missing a trick if we're not doing this. So if you're not one of those 18%, I'd encourage you to start on that journey. There's a whole bunch of sales metrics that agencies are or aren't measuring. Again, I'd encourage you to think about how you can raise your game, particularly this one. Only 16% are measuring cost of acquisition. Again, a big chunk of agencies are flying blind when it comes to the effectiveness of their sales and marketing strategies. Please don't be one of them. Now is not the time to be flying blind, I can assure you. Now is the time to tighten up on this stuff, be really meticulous, and build the foundations, build the habits for a highly effective sales and marketing machine. Because if you can do it now, when times are tough, then and build those habits, build that capability, it's going to stand you in great stead when things improve, and they will improve. They will improve. I can't tell you when, but they will improve. I've been doing this long enough to know that they will. But I've also been doing this long enough to know that this is a really crucial time. This is when we find out who the really good agencies are. And this is when we all need to sharpen up, because it is tough out there. But this is our opportunity to just get better at what we do. Now, I shared a lot of metrics there, and I appreciate I flashed a few of them up, and you probably didn't get a chance to take them all down. Again, you can look at them in the report. I'm a big fan, though, of simplification, of focus. And what I encourage you to think about is, what is your number one metric? Amongst all of this, what do you really want to hang your hat on? And I had a really interesting conversation with an agency recently, and they were feeling a bit down, as a few people are at the moment, about their sales performance. And they said, look, we picked up half the clients that we wanted to in Q1, half the clients. And when we looked at the stats, they said, well, it's really interesting, actually, because we picked up half the clients, but we issued half the number of proposals, and we actually had half the number of sales conversations. And what they're going to focus on, and they've got a good influx of leads. So the leads are actually really strong. We said, well, actually, we're getting good number of opportunities coming in, but what we're not doing is converting them to sales conversations. That was their gap. And they figured out that if they could just focus on these sales conversations, everything would flow. Everything was flowing from there. This is where they were getting stuck, between the leads coming in and the sales conversations. So that was their number one metric. All paths were leading to sales conversations, and they've had a really good start to Q2 because of it. And you can feel the energy that brings, that singular focus. So what is your number one metric? Where is your current blocker? What can you focus on individually, and what can you bring a metric that you can bring your whole team around to engage with that will really make a difference to your new business results. And also, how can you get the hustle back? I spoke to someone just last night, and they've run a business for 15 years. They know what they're doing. They have a really good track record in a niche, but they've just forgotten how to hustle. And they were telling me about what they were doing and their plans, and it just sounded all very arm's length. And I just reminded them, I said, look, you started this business with nothing. You had no contacts. You had no clue, probably, certainly a lot less of a clue than you do now. But what you did have was that energy and that hustle. You found ways to use your existing contacts to have conversations, to find a way to generate opportunities. If you take all of your experience over the last 15 years, all of that accumulative wisdom, all of those case studies and testimonials and contacts now, you actually have some proper contacts that know who you are and trust you. Combine that with that hustle and that energy, you will be unstoppable. And it was just the reminder that I think that they needed to really engage with that hustle muscle again. Like, we all need it. There's something magical about getting that fire in your belly and just picking up the phone again and sending messages, all with the clear purpose and intention of having conversations, because those conversations lead to something magical happening. They always do. So how can you get the hustle back in your new business activity? That was just the third challenge. We're now going to move on to challenge number 2 and how to solve that one. And challenge number 2, to remind you, was the client budgets are too small. So first of all, let's have a look at what a typical client budget is. So in the first 12 months, agencies above $1 million, this is what a typical client budget client would spend in those first 12 months. So two ends of the spectrum, we've got at the bottom end, we've got clients spending less than 20 grand, and at the top end, clients spending more than $250,000. And then we've got big chunks in between. And most agencies, so we can see here, 70% of agencies sit between project sizes between 20 and 100 grand. And what's really interesting, when you look at those stats for agencies under $1 million, those numbers pretty much half. At the top end, we've got 100 grand. At the bottom end, we've got 10 grand. And again, we've got 71% somewhere between 10 and 50 grand. So I guess the smaller agencies can take heart. You do, as you get bigger, win bigger deals. So that's the journey that we're all on. So those are the averages. So how do you find bigger clients with bigger budgets? Well, the first thing you need to do is to be crystal clear on who you want to work with. And as well as being crystal clear about who you want to work with, you need to be crystal clear on who you don't want to work with. Where are the lines in the sand? I see far too many agencies wasting time with smaller clients, and quite frankly, that don't have the budget. They're wasting their time. They're clogging up their studio with that work. They're clogging up their new business resource, trying to win that work. And I understand the psychology of this when, times are tough and you're looking for any deal, but you need to think more strategically, and you need to make sure that what you are doing is attracting those bigger ones. So first of all, you need to be clear about it. Where are the red lines for you? We won't work with anyone beneath this, or that doesn't have this as their budget. Where are those red lines? And then you need to start thinking about your dream clients, thinking big with this. I've heard so many stories over the years. In fact, there was I met someone at a networking event who had come to or attended one of my webinars. She said, I just want to thank you. That dream client list idea. And I don't think it's even my idea. It's not a new idea, is it? I'm just passing it on from someone else who told this story 20 years ago, who heard it from someone else who told it 20 years before. It's the same stuff that still works, right? Please do it because it works. Anyway, the story goes that I encouraged her to produce a list of the dream clients and then to go around her team and her network and letting people know, these are the people I'd love to work with, and these are the reasons why we can really make a difference in this space. We've got loads of track record of adding value in this space. So we'd love to work with one of these clients. And one of the clients on that list was Red Bull. She said, it's just a really odd thing happened. I wrote this list, shared it with people, and then out of the blue, a couple of days later, someone got in touch who used to work for Red Bull about something completely unconnected. And I said, I'd love to work with Red Bull. I don't suppose you know anyone who still works there. And she said, yeah, of course. Show me some case studies. I'll connect you. Anyway, made the connection. And that first deal was worth 10 grand. And then there was another deal that I think was 40 grand. And now they do about 75 grand's worth of work each year with Red Bull, which is really, really cool. And all came from creating that list of dream clients, being clear about who they wanted to work with, and then going out and asking people. And yeah, it worked. It was a nice story. Hopefully you'll listen to this, take action on it. And I'd love to be able to tell your story next time. So that would be really cool. Please share those with me. What you then need to do is make sure everything that you do is targeted at your dream clients, because it's one thing having the list and then having the conversations, but you need to back it up, right? And I had I think, quite an amusing conversation with someone, an agency recently, and I was really impressed. They were telling me how they were really focused. They had a SEO offering, very focused SEO offering, and they were targeting. I said, who do you work with? They said, look, we've got a lot of traction with engineering firms and professional services firms. That's where we're really focused. So I was like, this is cool. You've got a specialist offering, SEO, and you're targeting at a specialist audience, engineering firms and professional service firms. Let's have a little look at your website. I looked at their website. I was like, hang on, this doesn't match what you've told me. This is a generic digital marketing website for generic businesses. They said, oh yeah, we haven't got round to updating it yet. Come on. We need to get round to updating this, right? You are telling me that you have a specialist offering for a specialist target audience, and yet you are not communicating it. And the challenge I have for you is, if this is making you feel uncomfortable, if you're sat there thinking, oh, this might be me, please do something about it, and do something quickly, right? If I asked all of your team, who's our ideal client, would they be able to tell me? Is it clearly communicated on your website who you want to work with? Is every event that you run targeted at your ideal client? Every piece of content, every social media post, everything that you do, is it targeted at who you want to work with and the sort of services that you want to provide them? And if it isn't, if there's a gap between what you know and what is actually on show, then please close that gap, because it's costing you. It really is costing you. That is how you get the bigger clients with the bigger budgets, is you go out and seek them and make sure everything is aligned. Now, the number one challenge that agencies are facing right now, the decisions keep getting delayed. And, you know, I had a choice when putting together this presentation. I could share with you some tactics to nudge things along if you get stuck, if things get stuck. But actually, I'm going to do something much more impactful. I'm going to go right to the top of this challenge and help you find a way to ensure they don't get stuck in the first place. And the way to do that is to start thinking about what you do in terms of this. Is what you do a must-have, or is it a nice to have? Just think about that for a second. The services that you offer, are they must-haves or are they nice to haves? And some of the things you do, by the way, might be must-haves and some of them might be nice to haves. But in the current economic climate, people tend to buy things that they really need. Businesses tend to buy things that they really need. It's hard to justify something that's just nice to have these days, isn't it? And if you think about your own expenditure in your business, some of the nice to have things might have gone by the wayside as you focused on the essentials, the must haves. So how do you make, if you are sat there thinking, oh, crikey, what we do is a bit nice to have, how do we make it a must have? Well, we all need to start thinking more about outcomes rather than deliverables. I had a conversation with a client in the last couple of weeks, and they were telling me about a new offering that they're taking out to the market, which actually sounds really cool. It's user experience testing, and instead of being doing it on a one-to-one basis, doing it on a group basis, and it just sounds like a really cool opportunity. And I asked this client to list. I said, well, why would they buy this for you? Why would your client buy this from you? List all the benefits. And they just listed all the deliverables, all of the features. I said, well, that's not helpful. We need to focus on outcomes. And what is it actually going to mean to me? What's this going to change in my world that's going to help me justify this to, you know, my head of marketing or to the finance team, that I can go to them and say, I've got something that will move this metric that really matters to us. Because if you aren't moving metrics that really matters to people, then it's just a series of deliverables. So how can you start talking more about outcomes, business impact, and what you do? Because everything that you do has an outcome, has a business impact, right? There's also deliverables. If you want to talk about deliverables, you can deliver a website, you can deliver an SEO strategy, you can deliver some video content. But it's much more powerful to think, well, hang on, what's that website? What's that SEO strategy? What's that video actually going to mean for the business? What are some of the outcomes the business is seeking? And to find out those things, you're going to need to ask more questions than you've ever asked, to go really deep with the client, to understand their pain points, their challenges, their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, the numbers that they're looking to move in order for you to make this a must-have for them. So some questions that you can ask to help you on this journey, because one of the tabs on the lead calculator spreadsheet is a lead qualification scoreboard. And it's a series of questions in a few areas. So we look at need, timeline, authority, budget, and competition. And it's a series of questions under each of those, and there's a scoring section as well. Now, what this will help you do is help you figure out whether, well, number one, whether it's worth going for this opportunity or not, and the amount of effort to put into the opportunity. Because quite frankly, a lot of the deals that are stuck in your pipeline at the moment are stuck because you should never have gone for them in the first place, right? You were never going to win them. It was always going to get stuck. One of these things was out of kilter. They didn't have the authority. There was no timeline. There was no budget, or you had no chance with the competition. There will be something that you could have identified at the start that would have meant, I'm not going to touch that because we're not going to win it. It's going to get stuck. This will be a pain in the neck. I promise you. And you could probably think of one of those deals right now. Gosh, that's a whole waste of time. And if you've been doing this long enough, you will have come second plenty of times. And some of those occasions that you will have come second, you will have realized we were always destined to become second. And whilst you do learn from those experiences, hopefully what you learn is, well, let's find out whether we got a chance of winning this right at the outset. So here are some of those questions. Under need, what do they need? Why do they need it? And what are the key technical requirements? Can we deliver those? So I'm sure you're doing the what do they need and what are the technical requirements, but why do they need it? Let's go up a level to really ask questions about why. What metrics are they looking to move? What are the outcomes that they are seeking? When it comes to timelines, well, when do they actually need it? And when do they plan to make a decision by? For the authority, ask questions like, what's the sales process? Who is involved in that? And what are their roles? What are the selection criteria by which you're going to make your decision? Budget, how is it going to be funded? So which department or budget part is this coming out of? And what is the budget? What specifically is the budget? Now, if they say, look, we haven't got a budget for this, we're just looking for value, you've been told that 100 times, I'm sure. There's a really good technique to help you get the budget out of people. It works every time. If you say to people, okay, sure, so you don't have a budget, you're not sure of it. I wonder if you could just help me put it into one of these three categories. We tend to work with people in one of three areas. So, and you can make up your own thresholds, but let's say you say, look, we tend to work with people on, say, 100 to 200,000 pound projects, or 50 to 100,000 pound projects, or 20 to 50. Which of those three pots do you think this is most likely to fit in? And they will go from not having a clue about the budget to suddenly going, oh, it'll be that pot, or it'll be that pot, but could it be more in this end of that pot? I promise you, it will happen every time. As soon as you present those three options, whatever they are, they will pick one. Another question to ask is the competition, and this is really crucial. So how many others are we competing against? Who are they? So are they an incumbent or a new provider? And do we have an edge? So expertise or sector experience. And this is where a lot of agencies falling down. You're up against a gazillion others. There's an incumbent, and you don't have either the sector expertise or the skills to actually give yourself an edge in this bid. So if you can figure this stuff out beforehand, you can decide whether you take on the opportunity or not. But you can also decide how much effort to put into it. And that last one's really important, by the way. Do you have an edge, expertise or sector experience? Because we saw in the first bench press report of the year that those that have a clear specialism or niche are twice as likely to achieve fast growth and twice as likely to achieve high profitability. So it's just another reminder to focus on having a clear specialism and a clear niche. So once you've asked these questions, you can then start to score it. And when it comes to scoring, there's a specific way to do it. If you don't know the answers to those questions, you get a big fat 0. If you think you know, you score a 1. If you definitely know, you score a 2. And if it's confirmed, you score a 3. Now, the difference between 2 and 3 is really interesting and important, because if you definitely know, what you should then do is ask or get to the client to confirm it. So just to confirm, you're planning to make a decision on this by this date and it free to be implemented by that date. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. You get it confirmed, you get it repeated back to you. You score 3 points for that. So just confirm your budget somewhere between 20 and 50,000 pounds, ideally towards the lower end of that. Is that correct? Yeah. So you're repeating it back, you're getting it confirmed, you're getting the points scored. So add up those points, and that will give you a clue as to how much effort you put in and whether or not to go for it. And that will help you ensure that fewer decisions get delayed, because you're only working on opportunities where you have a real chance of winning, and you can put loads of effort into those knowing that you have a real chance of winning. Again, if you want to go through that process scientifically, it's a tab in the lead calculator. Now, it's also our jobs to make it easy for clients to say yes to what we do. And part of that is making it a must-have. But I see a lot of agencies altering their approach. So rather than big projects, say 100,000, 150,000 pound project, what they're saying to clients is, look, I appreciate that's a big decision. Why don't we just work on a gradual basis? So taking a more agile approach to this. So let's just work on the discovery phase. The discovery phase is going to be £12,000. These are the deliverables, something easy they can say yes to, and work on that. Or maybe, as I say, what I saw one agency do is rather than a one-to-offer, create a one-to-many offer and say, look, you know, if we were to do this as a one-to-one piece of work for you, it would cost 25,000. However, if you can get 5 other people, if we can work with you and 4 others, we could do that for, say, £7,500. So the agency actually ends up making more money, creates more clients, and the clients get to share the cost of, in that case, some research. How can you make it easy for clients to say yes? By breaking down the project into bite-sized chunks, potentially, or looking at the very specific metrics that they can move, and maybe even apportioning some of the cost of the project or attaching it to performance and saying, well, look, okay, so the cost of the project is this, but how about we charge you half of that, guaranteed, and then the rest is on performance. So if we hit those metrics, we expect to be paid more than the fixed cost. And if we don't, then we'll get paid less. So you're working an element of the proposal on performance. Again, that reduces the risk for client and gives you an opportunity to potentially even earn more from this if this performs well. I've talked a lot today and have shared just a fraction of the benchmarks in the report. So if this has piqued your interest and you'd like to continue your journey, I'd encourage you to take a look at Agency Bites. So these take place over the course of the next month. You'll shortly receive an email from Rory Spence inviting you to join in those. And a lot of you will have attended them before. They're absolutely brilliant. They're wonderfully interactive. We split you into smaller groups. You get to share ideas with agencies similar size to you. So we put the £1 million plus agencies in a group and the under £1 million agencies in a group. And you get to hang out with your peers and solve some of these challenges. And so when these events crop up, please take advantage. They're completely free. And what we'll be doing in the next ones is exploring some of this in more detail. And actually what Rory will be taking you through is how to solve, I think, solving one challenge that will make all of those 3 a lot easier. We'll be looking at that particular challenge and how you solve it, which could unlock the key to a lot of the things I've talked about today. So definitely worth checking out. And the other thing to help you on your journey is talking to us. So as you've seen, we're not like other accountants, not like other accountants at all. And if you'd like to have the conversations like this with your accountant, if you'd like to speak to an accountant that really cares about your business and wants to help you improve your performance, we would love to chat. Drop us a line, go onto our website. There's loads of opportunities to chat to us there. We would love to have that conversation and help you on your journey.